The following is a podcast brought to you by the Alex Kirsch Project.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
The January 6th committee subpoenas Trump yesterday. What does this mean? And will he even show? What else took place during the hearing, and what are everybody's thoughts on it? What did Trump think of it? MAGA Republicans aren't even hiding their racism anymore. Now they're becoming more emboldened and more open with it, as a matter of fact. Why do people still vote for them? Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Tudor Dixon had their debate. How was the debate? What was discussed? Who won that debate? All of this on this week's episode of Current Events on Tap. And good evening, listeners, and welcome to another episode of Current Events on Tap with your host, Alex Kirsch, a podcast from the Alex Kirsch Project. Hey, that's me, Army retiree, truck driver, pragmatic progressive, political commentator, and part-time clout chaser every other day of the week. If this is your first time listening, please do me a solid and hit like, share, and subscribe to my Spreaker, YouTube, Spotify, and my iHeartRadio. This podcast gives you this week's current events, and I also do what I call the Beer of the Week. I pick one beer and I review it based on price, pour, aroma, taste, and then I also give it an overall rating at the end. Be sure to catch me every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Spreaker. And catch me at your earliest convenience on all the other platforms of YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. You can also find me at TikTok. Just type in the Alex Kirsch Project and you'll find me. I got some pretty spicy content over there too. Just in like every other platform, just type in the Alex Kirsch Project, or you can even type in Current Events on Tap. That's usually a pretty easy way to find me as well. So hopefully everybody's had a really good week. I had a very, very busy week out on the road. Just got home today, but it's just the nature of the beast. I don't regret the fact that I have a good career, essentially. I would like to be home like on days I'm supposed to be, but you know what? I'm not blaming anybody. It's just how things go. It's not the end of the world if something like this happens. Now, hopefully things become a little bit easier, not quite as difficult once winter hits, because I know if apparently like in places like Battle Creek and Kalamazoo on I-94, things tend to get a little dicey from what I understand. So it's always important to be prepared and just kind of be on the lookout for things, because, it gets a little dangerous. It gets a little hectic out there. I'm not going to lie. There are times I still have a lot of anxiety when I drive into Chicago and stuff like that, but that's just kind of how things are. But, all in all, it was a very successful week. And I tell you, this week, holy hell in a handbasket. There was so much stuff to talk about. Like, there was a lot of other topics I want to talk about, but it's just, these are the three that I really feel like I'm going to focus upon. And if I wanted to talk about all the other issues that happened throughout this week, we'd be here for 2.5, 3 hours. And as much as I love doing this podcast, I don't want to talk for 2 or 3 hours about these things, I want to focus on the three main issues that I think are very, very important, okay? And I get it. I know there's people out there that might listen to this podcast that might support the last administration, and they're going to say, oh, this guy's got TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. I really need to make a jingle for that. That'd be hilarious. But the fact of the matter is there's a reason as to why I keep talking about this. It's because he has such a terrible impact on this country. And the fact that people still love and worship this guy, which is something I just don't frickin' understand. I don't get it. But anyway, without further ado, before I go into this week's current events, it's time for
the Beer of the Week.
The beer of the week this week is from Mexico City, Mexico, at the Grupo Modelo Brewery. The beer I've chosen from this selection is the Modelo Especial. So let's talk about the history of the brewery first. Grupo Modelo is a massive brewing company in Mexico that also exports Corona and Pacifico beer. The brewery was founded in 1922 and is the leader of beer production in the country of Mexico. It is believed that Modelo Especial is one of the few beers that still had massive profits from Prohibition. Now, for those that are not familiar with Prohibition was in the days where the United States decided to ban all sales of alcohol. That's where Al Capone was really making his money, essentially. But, unfortunately, Elliot Ness wasn't able to prove all that. He only got him on tax fraud or tax evasion and whatnot. However, because people just were really, really thirsty for beer, they had to take trips down to the border. And of course, they got themselves the Modelo Especial. Because guess what? The people of Mexico were happy enough to provide it because they made massive profits off it. Why wouldn't they? So essentially, that's where it got its start. And the beer itself, Modelo Especial, was first introduced in October of 1925. It'll make it 97 years old this month. Now, not this specific beer. I'm just talking about the beer itself, okay? It has an alcohol percentage of 4.4%. Its main ingredients are malted barley, hops, corn, and yeast. And of course, don't forget the pleasant H2O. We can't survive without H2O. Always stay hydrated and drink water, right? So now I'm going to rate it on a scale of 1 mugs to 5 mugs, 1 being the lowest and 5 mugs being the highest. So first, let's go into price. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. You can buy this at any grocery store or liquor store for about $15 to $18 a pop, usually, for a 12-pack. It's easy price, and let me just say that you definitely get plenty of beer for that price. The pour. Also 4 out of 5. It's a very easy pour, very, very low risk when it comes down to overflowing it. You've got very, very little risk of the foamy head that's going to overflow the cup the chalice or mug you're ever drinking out of. Very little minimal risk out of there, but it has a very pleasant golden color to it as well. The aroma, it's a 3 out of 5. You know, I don't want to downplay it. It's not an unpleasant aroma, but it's also not an aroma that you really want to scream about, that you're not screaming from the rafters. There's nothing that really knocks the senses out, but at the same time, it's also not an offensive aroma, essentially. The taste. Now, the taste is much better than the smell. Let's take a drink real quick. Upon first taste, you can tell it's very smooth. You can definitely taste the slight sweetness, but you can also get the taste of the corn in there, you know. It's a very smooth drink. Like, honestly, this is the kind of beer that you would want to have, like, out for a barbecue. This is one that you want to, like, kick back and relax on, or, like what I'm doing right now, reviewing it on a podcast. This beer is actually very pleasant to drink. It's very pleasant to the taste buds. It's nothing to scream about once again, but also it's just very smooth. It's got that nice slight sweetness to it. You know, it's not like an overpowering sweetness like some beers I like, but this one is just good enough that it hits all the buttons essentially. But again, I just got to give it a 4 out of 5. And overall, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5, okay? Now, I'm saying it's above average because this is a good beer. Now, I'm going to eventually do Corona, but I think Modelo is slightly better than Corona. Now, the reason why I usually say Corona is better is because once you add that lime juice in there, it really kind of puts it over the top. Modelo, I don't really feel the need to put the lime juice in there. You know, I think it's just fine by itself. So I think that's why I put it slightly above the Modelo, Corona, I mean. Modelo is a very, very nice, pleasant drinking beer. Especially for like hot summer days, or if you just want to kick back and relax and just like, you know, watch a few movies or something, or, you know, play some video games. I mean, I've drinking plenty of Modelo in my day. Even the Modelo Negro is a really nice dark beer, but I'll talk about Modelo Negro another time. But again, I'm just going to have to give this a 4 out of 5. It's a really good beer. Don't get me wrong. It's an above average beer. It's one that I highly recommend for people to go out there and give it a shot. Because, you know, I mean, it's one just, you want to just kick back and relax, you know. And, you know, I can find myself drinking bottle after bottle of this stuff. I mean, hell, I got another bottle sitting right next to me once I drink this one up. So, anyway, really good beer, definitely above average. I highly suggest people go out there and buy it. Now, on to current events. So yesterday was the 9th January 6th committee. Now, we are not sure if this is the last time that they're going to convene, but this is one of the last meetings that they're going to have before the midterms, essentially. Now, yesterday was a summary of all the evidence that we've already seen, but they also showed a lot of the new evidence that we have not seen before, okay? Now, there was video footage from inside the Capitol where rioters entered the Capitol, where Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senator Chuck Schumer were communicating with then Vice President Mike Pence, the acting Secretary of Defense Chris Miller, about getting the National Guard involved. I mean, there was a lot of new stuff that came out there. Now, again, a lot of this was stuff we have already known. It was kind of retelling of testimony that they had already heard. It was a good summation of everything that we have already learned about what took place, what led up to January 6th, but it was mostly talking about Trump's state of mind, which we can all guarantee his state of mind is he was probably really excited sitting up in his Oval Office watching these people do his bidding in this mob, because this is exactly what Trump wanted. Make no mistake about this, okay? He can feign all the ignorance because he hasn't actually denied that he was all about this. He didn't even want to say that he denounced the people. He just said, "We love you, you're all very special, now go home." That's what he pretty much said at the end of it, okay? But, so, some of the new evidence that has come to light, however, is some of the Secret Service text messages that came through. Some of the Secret Service members knew that these people were coming and they were going to be armed. But they did little to nothing. But they had the machines, like the X-ray machines, so to detect weapons. But according to some testimony by Cassidy Hutchinson, Trump wanted those going away. He wanted them taken away because these people were not here for him. They were not going to hurt him whatsoever. So he wanted the machines to be taken away. Now, this is, people are saying it's like, oh, it's just hearsay because she's saying it. Well, nobody else is there to contradict what she said so far. Nobody else has been willing to come forward and testify under oath for this committee. Nobody has gone forward to any court hearing or any other kind of committee. I mean, for crying out loud, the MAGA Republicans could host a committee of their own if they wanted to, but they already know that if they get these people to testify under oath, there's a good chance that these people could be committing perjury, okay? The people that have come forward that have testified under penalty of perjury and testified under oath. And I want everybody to remember something. The people that have come forward for this committee, the ones that we've seen televised on TV, the majority of them that have come forward have not pled the fifth, which they have every right to plead the fifth, okay? I'm not going to tell somebody that they don't have a right to plead the fifth, okay? I'm not Donald Trump, who says that if you plead the fifth, you're obviously hiding something. Oh, that's so convenient because he pled the fifth, 440 times in his deposition up in New York at the time of the Mar-a-Lago raid? How convenient for him to do so. But anyway, I'm just going to I could rant about that all damn day. All right, so it's so funny because I've been reading up on social media this morning, and I've been reading up on social media throughout the afternoon, and there are people that are actually wondering, why is it that, you know, Nancy Pelosi's daughter, who happens to be a documented filmmaker, just happened to be filming on the day of the January 6th riot? Well, first of all, that's not a huge concern to me, okay? I'm more concerned about the fact that there are rioters in the Capitol, in our nation's capital, looking to cause harm to our elected officials. They were looking to cause harm to AOC. They were looking to cause harm to Nancy Pelosi. They were looking to cause harm to Mike Pence. Mike Pence, the former he was still vice president at the time, and they wanted to hang him. They literally talked about hanging Mike Pence. But, of course, Trump didn't condemn any of that. He didn't condemn the violence as was being done that day. Why? Because he loved that. He was all about that violence. People were there under his bidding. They also played testimony by Anika Navaroli, who works for Twitter. At first, she wanted to remain anonymous, but now she's finally come forward and revealed herself and released her name, which I have no doubt could put her in some peril, because we know these MAGA freaks are going to try to go after her next, because that's what they do. These people are known for going after those that oppose their god emperor. She came forward and stated that Trump fanned the flames of people who are already determined to want to hang Mike Pence. Now, let's not mince words here. There were gallows, physical gallows outside of the Capitol building, and these people were saying that they wanted to hang Mike Pence. Now, remember, I'm not a fan of Mike Pence. I don't like his politics. I don't like how he views the LGBTQ plus people. However, he was still an elected official, and these people wanted to hang him. Hang him. Because they believed that he had the right and the ability to overturn the election and send it back to the states, which he did not. Mike Pence came out consistently saying, I don't have that power. But these people don't do their research. They don't do any follow-up, none of this stuff. They just take whatever Donald Trump tells them because Donald Trump heard it from other people. He did no verification for himself because he is refusing to acknowledge that he lost, even though apparently, yes, he did know. He did know that he lost, but he just refused to acknowledge it publicly. I mean, this is how demented this guy is. This is how just out of touch with reality he is. Now, there are those out there saying, oh, well, those gallows probably didn't function. It doesn't freaking matter, okay? It doesn't matter if they function or not. optics is absolutely everything. Now, would you say that it's completely innocent if I saw a bunch of guys in white robes outside of a black family's home and they had a noose outside of a tree? Would I say that's completely innocent? Of course not. We know the intent. We know these people are wanting to threaten that black family. So why can't we also say that these people meant it, that they wanted to hang Mike Pence? I can't even imagine what might have happened if they got a hold of a Democrat or somebody that was against Trump. I cannot even begin to imagine what would happen if they were caught. Like, it still sends chills down my spine just thinking about it. There was a lot of evidence that kind of came forward. I could talk about it myself, but I highly suggest, if you haven't watched the January 6th committee hearing that happened yesterday, I highly suggest that you watch it, because there's a lot that came out. Every committee member spoke. Every committee member gave a summary of everything that they've talked about. And I'd say they did a masterful job of doing so. They didn't rush it. They were articulate. And it was run by both Democrats and Republicans. And of course, you're going to hear the MAGA birds call them, these Republicans, rhinos, Republican name only. Let me just remind you all about something, okay? Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger supported Donald Trump throughout his presidency. They did. They voted for him. Liz Cheney voted for 90% of the policies that Trump put forward. But what Donald Trump did on that day was a bridge too far for her even. And guess what? Donald Trump is now turned on her, and the entire MAGA Republicans has turned against Liz Cheney because, you know what? Enough is enough, she said. Enough is enough, she said. And she will, through her entire political career away, she put the country first ahead of her political career. And this is why I respect Liz Cheney for that. I'm not a big fan of her dad whatsoever. But you know what? The fact that she is willing to take a stand against this schmuck says a lot about her character. She's not intimidated by Trump, and she's also not intimidated by the people that are blasting her all over the place. She accepted the fact that she lost in her primary, and she conceded the debate, and she conceded the election, or the primary, to her opponent, who I'm not even going to mention because I think she's so deplorable. However, at the very end of the committee hearing, Liz Cheney gave a closing statement. Now, I'm not going to play the closing statement, but I highly suggest you check that out too. She then turned it over to the chairman, Benny Thompson of Mississippi. Now, I'm going to play the audio of what took place there.
If there's no further debate, the question is on agreeing to the resolution. Those in favor will say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed is no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, I request a recorded vote.
A recorded vote is requested. The clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Cheney.
Aye.
Ms. Cheney, aye. Ms. Lofgren.
Aye.
Ms. Lofgren, aye. Mr. Schiff.
Aye.
Mr. Schiff, aye. Mr. Aguilar.
Aye.
Mr. Aguilar, aye. Mrs. Murphy.
Aye.
Mrs. Murphy, aye. Mr. Raskin.
Aye.
Mr. Raskin, aye. Mrs. Luria.
Aye.
Mrs. Luria, aye. Mr. Kinzinger.
Kinzinger, aye.
Mr. Kinzinger, aye. Mr. Chairman.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
The clerk will report the vote.
Mr. Chairman, on this vote, there are 9 ayes and 0 noes.
All committee members voted aye to subpoena the former president of the United States, Donald Trump, for a congressional hearing. Okay? It's a congressional subpoena. 9 yeses, 0 noes. Now, what does this mean exactly, okay? For starters, it is definitely a crime to defy a congressional subpoena. Steve Bannon already knows this because he's pretty much in a world of hurt right now because he failed and he defied a congressional subpoena. In accordance to an 1857 law, failure to comply is a punishable one by up to 1 to 12 months in prison. Now, there's no guarantee that, Trump would see the inside of a prison cell. There's no guarantee about that. And, here's the thing I look at. People like Trump don't go to prison. There are some people that go to prison, but they go to like a white-collar prison. You're not going to see them on like diehard prisons like Oz or Rahway Prison or something like that. They'll go to like some white-collar prison, where they pretty much have all the rights in the world still. They just wear the prison uniform, but they probably have more rights than some of us do. I mean, I don't see Trump going to prison in general. I see him throwing people under the bus to save his own skin. However, if the person just fails to show, the Justice Department, however, needs to convene and the Justice Department decide whether or not they want to bring charges to this person. Now, Trump also has the option to appear behind a closed-door session, and he can either choose to answer questions or invoke his Fifth Amendment right, which, again, he has every right to invoke his Fifth Amendment right. But if he chooses to do so once again, this just furthers the cause that he is just another hypocrite. He's somebody that says, oh, if you plead the Fifth, you're guilty of something. But yet he pled the Fifth already 440 times for something totally separate. But he has that option to do it here again. But he's not the only one, okay? His loyalist traitor army, people like Mike Flynn, Roger Stone, John Eastman, and Jeffrey Clark, all who answered the committee, all pled the Fifth, each and every time. They were very, very proud about being part of the January 6th. They were all in support of this idea of overthrowing the government. But when it's time to face the actual facts and actually testify under penalty of perjury, they refused to stand by their convictions. They just pled the damn Fifth. I'm not saying they're guilty, but I do believe they're guilty. They're traitors. Simple as that. Especially Mike Flynn. Somebody that swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States forgot his oath. He put all of his love and loyalty behind one person, Donald J. Trump. And that's a shame. The fact that somebody that served their country for that long period of time could be that much of a scumbag traitor. And guess what? By testing his convictions, he pled the Fifth, which he is entitled and has the right to. He has the right to plead the Fifth. However, there is a risk. I'm not going to lie to you, folks. The Republicans right now have a chance to win control of the House in the November 8th elections. So please, get out there and vote. Do not let the Republicans take control of the House, because you know what's going to happen if they take control of the House? They're going to throw this thing out and say, there's no basis for this. Donald Trump is innocent. But they're only doing this to save face for themselves because they are terrified of Donald Trump. They are scared shitless of the man because they know the second that they speak out against Trump, that is the end of their political career. Look what happened to Adam Kinzinger. Look what happened to Liz Cheney. Mitt Romney is an exception, even though we know Mitt Romney is very much against Donald Trump. And I know he's sometimes agree with Donald Trump, but I know he's not a big fan of his. But it's just completely absurd by how much people are just absolutely terrified of one person. A guy that does not have any loyalty towards anybody else but himself. I barely believe that he even has loyalty to those that are loyal to him. Because like I said, he's the kind of guy that will throw somebody under the bus at the first sign of trouble. He will throw somebody, have them meet the underside of the bus to save his own skin. That's the kind of guy he is. Anytime he meets somebody, or anytime somebody starts speaking out against him, he'll say, I barely know this person. That's the most consistent pattern of Donald Trump. That's who he is. But here's where it gets better, okay? What did Donald Trump think of the January 6th Select Committee? He went on Truth Social, and of course, he spurged the hell out. The first thing he said was, why didn't crazy Nancy Pelosi call out the troops before January 6th, which I strongly recommended that she do so. There's no proof of that, by the way. It was her responsibility, but she didn't like the look. Crazy Nancy failed the American people. Again, there is no proof of that whatsoever. Next. Donald Trump says, the Unselect Committee knowingly failed to examine the massive voter fraud which took place during the 2020 presidential election. The reason for what took place on January 6th. Okay. The reason why January 6th happened is because of this moron spreading election misinformation saying that they are stealing our country. They are stealing this election, and people that were dumb enough to believe it bought it. This is the thing that people need to have a drastic understanding about. There is no proof of widespread election fraud. But Donald Trump, even though he knows that he lost the election, He knows he lost fair and square. He is continuing to spread this misinformation because there are people dumb enough out there to believe him. There are people out there that are stupid enough and ignorant enough to still say, oh, I believe the election was stolen because of A, B, and C. They have no definitive proof of this, but yet Donald Trump has sold them on the bill of goods. The last thing he mentioned was, why didn't the Unselect Committee ask me to testify months ago? Why did they wait until the very end, the final moments of their last meeting? Because the committee is a total bust that has only served to further divide our country, which, by the way, is doing very badly. A laughingstock all over the world. The only laughingstock around here is the amount of times this guy has excuses for every little thing. They could have called him to ask him to testify, but we know for a fact that this guy would not be willing to testify except to plead the fifth. Why? Because he is a coward. A coward. Donald Trump is a coward. Flat out. This guy will not testify on his own behalf because he knows that if he steps up there in that committee and he does not take the fifth and answer some questions, that he could very well be guilty of perjury, of committing perjury, essentially, under oath. The man doesn't understand the oath. The only oath that he has is to himself. It is that simple. Donald Trump just thinks this whole entire committee was a joke. He thinks he is under the most attacked person in the entire country. He thinks that everybody's just out to get him with no proof whatsoever. I want everybody to remember something, okay? When he was first impeached, the GOP did not allow a certain number of witnesses, especially his former National Security Advisor, John Bolton, to testify under oath. He was willing to come forward and testify under oath about this whole quid pro quo thing. There were so many witnesses that they did allow to testify, but a majority of witnesses, like John Bolton, that could have had provide damning evidence against Donald Trump were prevented from testifying. We all know Donald Trump is a liar. We all know he's a corrupt individual. People that voted for him know he's corrupt, but they always make excuses as to why they voted for him. They'll say, well, what about Hillary? What about Hunter? What about Joe Biden? What about Barack Obama? That's all they ever do. One of his press secretaries, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, was great about the whataboutism game. Oh, well, yeah, this might happen, but what about, that's all she ever did. That's why she was a terrible press secretary. Of course, then Kayleigh McEnany came by after Stephanie Fisher and was a horrible, horrible press secretary. But the thing is, though, this committee was vital. It's important that we hold Trump to account. Because if we don't, people around the world are going to say, look at the United States. They're willing to let a guy essentially try to overthrow their own government and nothing happens to him. People were already scratching their heads looking at what happened. I know, because I've talked to people from different parts of the world. And they're like, how is it this guy's not in prison yet? I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. Some people are just absolutely just gobsmacked, as they say, by this. The January 6th committee had evidence. They presented it. Nobody has presented any evidence and testified under oath to counter otherwise. And the conversations I've had with people like on Discord or Twitter or Facebook, they all say the same shit. They all try to insist that the election was stolen. They all try to say that this is a witch hunt. They all try to say that this is nothing more than just a sham. They all try to say how the ratings are terrible for this, but they are completely ignoring the fact that the evidence is there. People that insist that this is a sham are either ignoring this, they didn't watch it, or they are complicit. They are okay with people trying to overthrow our country. They are okay with people trying to overthrow our system of government. They are okay with people trying to take away people's rights to vote. And they throw a little temper tantrums when they don't get their way. And they call the left snowflakes. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people on the left are pretty bad. Some of them are pretty cringy people. But my God, these MAGA Republicans are some of the worst people that throw temper tantrums on everything. As we've seen for the past 2 years, they still insist that the election was stolen, even though they have no proof of it, and they refuse to accept that the truth is there. Donald Trump is guilty of sending people to the Capitol to fight on his behalf, and he's turned his backs on them. He could have supplied money for their defense, and he did nothing. And yet he insists that he would pardon these people, but yet so far he's done nothing but continue to spread these election lies. And I do not know if Donald Trump would actually come forward for this hearing under the committee, if the committee even happens. Again, Donald Trump is a coward. I doubt that he has the moral fiber or the conviction to actually testify on his own behalf without pleading the damn fifth. So the next topic of discussion, the Republicans on the GOP. Now, there are some Republicans out there that are not nearly as radical as others are. However, there are some very, very radical Republicans that are just absolutely atrocious. One of them being Marjorie Taylor Greene. It is blatantly obvious that these people are being more open about their racism. They don't even try to hide it anymore. Now, I'm going to play a clip, okay? I saw it on TikTok. The Daily Show released a video of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I keep calling her Taylor Greene because she earned that title, former President Trump, and Tucker Carlson, all of them sharing something in common. They quote the same BS that for years, people like David Duke, the former Grand Wizard of the KKK, and others members of the white supremacy organizations like the Ku Klux Klan, the Nazis, other white supremacist organizations, okay? Now, you don't have to take my word for it. Listen for yourself for the next minute and a half.
Joe Biden's 5 million illegal aliens are on the verge of replacing you.
The government of this country is on course to replace us with non-Europeans, non-white people.
And coming from all over the world, they're also replacing your culture.
All the people coming in, it's even affecting the culture of the country.
That's right. They want you to disappear.
We need to actually get up and fight for the white race, or there ain't going to be no white race.
They care more about the illegal immigrants at the border than they do the American people. They're giving out handouts to them.
Our country just don't care about us Americans. It's all about a handout to all the illegal immigrants.
If you're white, you have to go to the back of the line, discriminating against white people.
There is racial discrimination going on right now in this country against massive numbers of white Americans.
Anti-racist is a whole weird ideology that, quite frankly, tries to make white people second-class citizens.
White Americans are being treated as second-class citizens.
There are now two standards of justice.
It's a dual system of justice.
The foreign-born population is now growing by 132,000 people every month.
The non-whites are reproducing rapidly.
Eventually, there will be no more native-born Americans.
Our people are having few children. We've got to start protecting our race.
How precisely is diversity our strength?
So how is diversity our strength?
And I'll point out, listen, the Democrats are the party of the Ku Klux Klan.
And that was Ted Cruz at the very end. I love it when they try to say the Democrats are the party of the Ku Klux Klan. I've explained this time and time and time again. The Democrat Party back then was the conservative branch. And I've explained this over and over again. It's so amazing how the conservative base always seems to defend the Confederacy, but then they turn their backs when they say, oh, well, you know, you guys created the Ku Klux Klan. Well, if you support the Confederacy, then obviously you support the Ku Klux Klan. No? Okay, so quit making this distinction here, okay? I've explained that over and over again. When the Confederacy lost, offshoots of the Confederacy left from Appomattox. They ran to Kentucky and Tennessee and started the first chapter of the Ku Klux Klan. So if you're going to tell me that the conservative base that supports the Ku Klux Klan, the Confederacy, and then you'll say that the Confederacy is a conservative idea, and then when they escape and go to Tennessee or Kentucky and start the Ku Klux Klan, they suddenly became progressives? Are you stupid? Are you just mentally deficient? My God, what is it with people that continue to say, well, just remember, the Democrats are the people of the Ku Klux Klan? No, it doesn't work like that, okay? They might have been Democrats, but they were definitely conservatives. But I kept on listening to how Marjorie Taylor Greene and David Duke were sharing the same exact ideology. That's why I'm saying they're not even trying to hide it any further, okay? Now, they've been spinning this great replacement crap, okay? This great replacement crap is absolutely absurd, all right? It's nothing more than fear-mongering. The great replacement ideology, okay, was what led to what happened in Buffalo, where a guy that swore up and down that we were being replaced by illegal immigrants, as they might say, and therefore he decided to open up and kill a bunch of minorities because of these conspiracy theories, because of this supposed fear of whites becoming inferior. But these aren't the only ones that say it. Blake Masters, who's running for Arizona Senate says this is what the left really wants is to do is change the demographics of this country. They want to consolidate power so they can never lose another election. We don't need to import more than 1 million people every year to replace Americans who were born here. Eric Greitens, another Senate candidate from Missouri. Joe Biden's policy are an assault on the entire idea of America, wiping out the distinction between citizens and non-citizens, and he's doing it on purpose. J.D. Vance, Senate candidate from Ohio. You're talking about a shift in the democratic makeup of this country that would mean we never win, meaning Republicans would never win a national election in this country ever again. Senator Ron Johnson, Republican from Wisconsin. This administration wants complete open borders, and you have to ask yourself, why? Is it really they want to remake the demographics of America to ensure that they stay in power forever? Okay, no administration wants open borders. That is a lie. That's all these people do is lie. And the last one I'm going to share is Lauren Boebert, of course. The truth is they want borders wide open. Help Democrats take over the entire state of California. We have to take our country back. It's a lie. It's a lie. It's a lie. Nobody wants open borders. It's a consistent problem that these idiots always try to push this and peddle this because they want the white people to be scared of immigrants coming into this country. Now, why is it they want immigrants to stop coming to this country? It's because of fear tactics. It's not based upon any real sense. It's not based upon any real factual evidence. It's because they are afraid. They keep pushing this idea that fentanyl is, being pushed across the board, being brought across the board. It's also being brought in by airplanes. There's people that are smuggling in fentanyl from all different parts of the world. It's not just being brought up from the southern border, but they're going to continue to push the whole southern border aspect of things. But it gets worse. Tommy Tuber, before I go into the next information, though, I want everybody to understand something, okay? Those that want immigrants kicked out of the country, okay? Now, they can insist that it's going to start with those that they say are here legally that they want to keep. But it doesn't start with those that are here legally. It's the ones that they consider illegally here. Now, they insist that the people that are here in this country, the majority of them are people that snuck across the border illegally, which is not true. The majority of the people that are here, as they might say, illegally, are people that have overstayed their visas, and they just haven't had a chance to renew them. Why? Because the process is so stacked against them. There is a huge backlog in the Department of Homeland Security. Now, I used to believe the same shit that these people believe, but I don't anymore. It's because I've actually done my damn research on this topic, okay? When you look at the facts of this, it's mostly people that have overstayed their visas. Those are the majority of the people that are, as they might say, illegal in this country, okay? But just what happens if these... But they're not going to just say, oh, well, I just want to get rid of those that are here illegally, okay? The fact of the matter is there are people here that are on work visas, and they're going to want to get rid of everybody here that is an immigrant, period. That is what they're looking forward to. Now, what would this do to us as a country, okay? For those that are not aware, immigrants make up 13% of the U.S. population, but they are 16% of the workforce, and they are concentrated in occupations and industries that are high, middle, and low skilled levels, okay? Now, me being a truck driver, does anybody have any idea how many people that I see in this country that are truck drivers that are immigrants? Well, let me tell you, actually. According to the 2020 Data Bureau of Labor Statistics, immigrants represent 17% of the makeup force and make up 18.6% of employed truck drivers, okay? Which means that they are slightly overrepresented among truck driving, okay? So take 18.6% of those that are employed in truck driving and just pull them out of the country overnight. What happens? Freight comes to a screeching halt. Does anybody remember when I talked about the possible shutdown of BNSF rail yards? Just think about if you take 18% of truck drivers out of commission right away. Now, these great replacement conspiracy theorists are talking about how these immigrants are here to take our jobs, okay? Well, I don't see any of these idiots taking these jobs. I don't see these white people that are afraid of being replaced taking these jobs. Why? Is it because they feel that they are above these jobs? Is it because they're afraid of getting their frickin' hands dirty? I tell you what, I got my damn hands dirty. The first job I ever had was picking blueberries out in the hot sun in Oregon, okay? That was one of the first jobs I had at the age of 14. The next big job that I really had that I actually got paid a somewhat decent wage was working at the green bean cannery, okay? And I was surrounded by people that were probably immigrants as well. And a lot of them made up a large portion of the workforce. Now, a lot of people in my hometown, the state of Oregon, there's a lot of white people in there. And it was kind of like a rites of passage working inside of this factory, inside of the green bean cannery. Everybody worked there, okay? But there's a lot of people that are unwilling to do these jobs. And I'm telling you, hard labor jobs are hard. They are difficult. But the thing is, though, is that I think they're necessary and everybody should be able to partake in them. But some people feel they are entitled and they don't need to do these jobs. But the thing is, they want all these immigrants to be taken out. I was like, oh, well, these immigrants are just taking jobs away from us. Well, I don't see your ass out there on the unemployment. I just see some of you people just saying, oh, well, I'm not going to do those jobs. Those jobs seem stupid. I don't want to do those jobs because I don't want to do hard labor. Well, guess what? I didn't want to do hard labor either, but I'm still damn doing it. And I see immigrants in this country, and they are contributing to our economy. They are a net positive to this country. But yet, the GOP and the MAGA people are going to continue to peddle these lies, and they're going to continue to tell you how these people are a threat to our way of life and our existence. What these people don't understand is the people that are coming from the southern border, okay? What do they believe in? They're strong believers in family. They're strong believers in tradition. They are very religious. Isn't that what the GOP is supposed to aspire to? Don't they believe in strong traditional values? Don't they believe in its tradition? Don't they also believe in religion? Obviously not. These people obviously have a problem with those that come from the southern border because guess what's happened on the southern border? They're running away from drug cartels. Drug cartels that we continue to, allow. The thing is, I could go on all day about this, okay? When it comes down to it, there just needs to be a huge decriminalization of drugs across the board, okay? Not just marijuana. I'm talking about across the board. That might seem excessive, and that everyone's suddenly going to start doing cocaine or heroin, okay? Well, listen, okay? That's why you need to fund drug research centers, that you need to have more rehabilitation centers, so that way people can get treatment, because just because it's available doesn't mean people are going to start taking it all of a sudden, all right? You take away the power from the drug cartels by decriminalizing it across the board. That's step number one in defeating the cartels. You take away their power base, okay? But mostly, if you want to fix the problem on the southern border, first off, you have to find out, okay, what's going on in places like Guatemala or Venezuela? Why is it that these people are so desperate to come across the border? Probably because things are really screwed up in their country, all right? And it's not their fault that their country is screwed up. Part of that blame is essentially on us. Do your history. Do some research into it. There's a lot of times where certain people were put into positions of power and we overthrew those governments with our military forces. It's true. I'm not going to talk about which countries. I could talk all day about that. But the thing is, though, a lot of people, there's extreme power shifts in their countries. There's drug cartels, there's corruption, and these people don't want to have any part of that. I mean, we always talk about how we're the land of freedom of opportunity. But yet, for some reason, it's just not opportunity for those certain people, it seems. And the GOP, the MAGA people, are going to tell you that these people are a threat to you. They're not. Now, is there a chance that there are some people that might be a threat? Of course. But there's people that are a threat in this country that were born in this country, for crying out loud. I used to be against that argument, but guess what? Now I see why people say it. Because it's true. But once again, it gets worse as far as like the GOP racism, okay? So Tommy Tuberville, senator of Alabama, who's running for re-election, he's also a former head coach of Auburn football. He decided to drop some real wonderful racist rhetoric right here.
The Democratic Party, they have a majority. They could stop this crime today. Some people say, well, they're soft on crime. No, they're not soft on crime. They're pro-crime or owed that. They are not owed that.
He was basically insinuating in that video was that Democrats believe and they are pro-crime, and that they believe the ones that are committing the crime are the ones that want reparations. Now, where do you think he's insinuating? I don't know. What could it be? Oh, yeah. He's insinuating that the people that cause the most crime are black people. Oh, that's what he's insinuating. Yes, Tommy Tuberville is insinuating that black people commit the most crime. Now, you could point out, it's like, oh, well, black people make up only 13% of the population, but they commit 50% of the crime. Nothing could be more ignorant than that, okay? I'm going to just drop some serious facts on some of you idiots that think that, okay? Black people are just prosecuted more often. They are also the most underrepresented when it comes down to getting proper representation for them in court. Now, are there some people that happen to be black that commit crimes? Absolutely. But of course, there are also people that happen to be white that commit crimes, but yet we seem to focus on one demographic, essentially. And that's who Tommy Tuberville is focusing on. But again, let me just tell you all a few things, okay? Now, granted, I have not been able to find anything for 2022, but this is from 2020, okay? For all offenses, okay? For all races, for all crimes of 2020, there were 7,632,470 offenses. 5,335,610 were white. 1,992,510 were black. Native American, 185,300. Asian, 119,050, okay? Now, for white people, murder was 5,680. Black people was 6,380. American Indian, 180. Asian, 210. Robbery, I mean, I could just keep going down the list. But the fact of the matter is because white people pretty much make up the larger portion of the population. Yes, they might commit more crimes in certain demographics in certain areas. For example, they commit more crime when it comes down to larceny and theft, burglary, aggravated assault. I mean, this is all completely factual. But the thing is that Tommy Tuberville is going to lead you to believe that the people committing most of the crime are the ones that want reparations, okay? Again, I'm just going to drop some serious facts for you, okay? As of the year of 2022, the states with the highest crime rates are New Mexico with number 1, number 2 is Louisiana, 3 is Colorado, 4 is South Carolina, 5 is Arkansas, 6 Oklahoma, 7 Washington, 8 Tennessee, 9 Oregon, 10 is Missouri. New Mexico is a red state, Louisiana is a red state, South Carolina is a red state, Arkansas is a red state, Oklahoma is a red state, Tennessee is a red state, and Missouri is a red state. That's the majority of these crime-ridden states are red states. But don't let the facts get in the way of things. Don't let that cloud your judgment whatsoever. The states with the lowest crime rates are Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Connecticut, and New Jersey. The majority of the states that have the lowest crime rates happen to be Democrat, happen to be blue. But Tommy Tuberville wants you to believe that the Democrats want crime all over the place. We love crime. Yes, those of us on the left, we love crime. Crime is just the thing I wake up and say, you know what? I love crime so much. I just want to watch it all freaking day long. He's lying once again. That is exactly what they're doing. He's spreading misinformation because he knows people are going to buy into it. It's really sad, and it's honestly quite pathetic that people are buying into this crap. But the thing is people buy into it. It's because they listen to Tommy Tuberville because he is what? He's endorsed by Trump. These people could literally say anything. They could say the sky is pink, and people are like, yes, I agree with this guy. He says the sky is pink. I'm still going to vote for this guy because it's better than voting for a Democrat. I've yet to see one Democrat that is actually okay with crime. Because I seem to recall how like the biggest argument about going against Biden was the fact that he was a big co-sponsor of the 1994 crime bill, okay? Everybody loves to bring that up. The 1994 crime bill that at the time Senator Joe Biden signed off on, and he was a co-sponsor, okay? People love to bring that one up. Wait a second, I thought you said Democrats were pro-crime. They were pro-defund the police. No. And people don't even understand what defund the police means. They think that means taking all the money away from the police. No, it just means allocating the funding from the police under other sources, essentially. Because we all saw what happened in Uvalde. 40% of the people of the tax-funded money that city had went towards the police department, and they had a massive SWAT team, and they bragged about how they were ready for a school shooting, and it meant absolutely fuck all, essentially. And they just meant defund the police because there seems to be a great deal of problems within the police forces, getting a little bit of hairy trigger fingers, and that's why people can keep talking about it. So I can't think of anybody that's actually pro-crime, that wants more crime to happen. And this concept of reparations is another topic that I will talk about another time. But Tommy Tuberville just basically said this stuff because he knows he can get away with it because there was people that were cheering for him. Now, I am just shocked that people were cheering for that. But honestly, I shouldn't even be surprised, honestly. He's sponsored by Trump. He is loved by Trump, as is Marjorie Taylor Greene, as is Mehmet Oz, as is Herschel Walker. These are people that are loved by Trump, and they could literally say anything And people are still going to vote for them regardless, because it's obviously better than Democrats, because the Democrats work for the deep state, and deep state is run by George Soros, and George Soros funds Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton has Pizzagate, and oh my God, she was connected to Epstein. Oh my God, there's a whole world conspiracy out here. Oh my God, everybody's run the world. Oh my God, it's a whole conspiracy. Oh my God, we are screwed. I'm not being serious, by the way, but this is exactly what the MAGA people believe, that there is this government conspiracy all against Donald Trump. It's absurd. But yet people will still buy into it. People still believe in it. And it is absolutely just batshit crazy. Please, people, do not vote for these MAGA Republicans. They are not well. They are literally not well. So yesterday was the Democratic governor debate between Gretchen Whitmer, the incumbent, Democratic incumbent, and her opponent, Trump-endorsed Republican Tudor Dixon. They had their debate in Grand Rapids, and the main topics that were covered were abortion, safety in schools, gun rights, the economy, COVID, and what they could have done differently. Now, the debate that I was watching on was actually on David Pakman's podcast, and I do like David Pakman, but the only thing I didn't really like is the fact that he muted it when I'm trying to listen, and he's just giving his 2 cents in there. I was like, dude, can't you just pause and then give your 2 cents and then keep playing? But no, he just kept on rolling with it. So the main topics that they talked about, like first we'll talk about the abortion bit, okay? Proposition 3 is a ballot topic that would enshrine abortion rights into Michigan's Constitution. Now, she warned voters yesterday that the state's 1931 law would effectively criminalize abortion, okay? And she says the only reason that the law is not in effect right now is because of my lawsuit stopping it. Tudor Dixon, on the hand, says, I am pro-life with exceptions for the life of the mother, which is interesting. She changed her position. She was very specific about saying, even for the life of the mother, no exceptions whatsoever, but she's changed her position there. It's like, but I understand this is going to be decided by the people of the state of Michigan or by a judge. Now, both of them said that they would accept the decision of the people, but thank God Governor Gretchen Whitmer blasted Tudor Dixon. It's like, this is somebody that still believes that the election was stolen in 2020, which Tudor Dixon is on record saying that the election was stolen in 2020. Why? Because she needs that endorsement for Donald Trump, so she'll say whatever it takes to get Big Daddy God Emperor Trump's endorsement. When they talked about school safety, Gretchen Whitmer talked about how it's almost been a year since 4 students were killed at Oxford High School. She said she supports secure storage. She supports background checks. She supports red flag laws. And Tudor Dixon does not. Which Tudor Dixon is very open about, saying that she wants more guns, less oversight. She wants to get rid of gun-free zones because, once again, the argument is always saying is like, oh, I thought that guns weren't supposed to be in these gun-free zones, but yet they seem to be there. People need to understand something, okay? More guns isn't the answer. I mean, it didn't work in Uvalde. It didn't work in Parkland. School resource officers rarely freaking work. It's on very rare occasions where they actually do work. But, so this is what Dixon actually had to say about Governor Whitmer. She wouldn't allow protection even inside of the school, where we know that's the best case scenario if we have someone that can shoot down a shooter, shoot down a threat. But she doesn't want anything like that. She wants to make sure your kids are in a sitting duck zone. Now, again, there is no proof whatsoever that a school resource officer even deters a school shooter. There was an entire team of SWAT officers and police officers at Uvalde, and it did not stop the shooter. He kept killing. He was already in there, but he did not stop killing. There was a school resource officer at Parkland. Didn't stop the shooter whatsoever. There's military bases, where Nadal Hassan went inside of an out-processing station, screamed Allahu Akbar, and killed people there. I mean, we're talking about a military installation where there's guns at the ready for some people. Didn't stop him either. It's not that people are saying a sitting duck zone. It's just there are so many reasons as to why these school shootings happen, but the GOP is too afraid of losing their lobbying position with the NRA, essentially, their endorsement for the NRA. They also talked about Michigan's economy, okay? Tudor Dixon tried to say that the economy is the slowest economy for Michigan in history, which is not true. Michigan is actually prospering right now as a state. I mean, it was predicted that we were going to have a $3 billion deficit under Gretchen Whitmer's economy. But guess what? Like I've covered before, we have a $7 billion surplus. Let me say that again, a $7 billion surplus in this economy. But yet, the economy's tanking? I don't think so. It's not tanking whatsoever. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite of tanking. She's bringing jobs back to Michigan. She's bringing opportunity back to Michigan. I don't hear Tudor Dixon with any real ideas. She says that, she's going to sit here and support the workers. We're talking about somebody whose her dad bought a steel mill business and it went under. When they tried to pay the employees and the workers there, the checks that they gave the workers bounced. They left these people high and dry. Is this really who you want to elect as governor? I sure as hell wouldn't want to elect her as governor. She also tried to blame Governor Whitmer for all the deaths of people that happened during COVID, okay? Now, there's a lot that took place during COVID, and I know Gretchen Whitmer did her level best, and I know there are some mistakes that she probably made. However, some of the decisions she made led to one thing that is really important as well, and I'm not going to try to overshadow the people that died during COVID because there's a lot that played into it. But because of the decisions she made, people threatened her life. People showed up outside the Capitol building. They protested against this. Now, it wasn't nearly as bad as January 6th, but there was militia members outside the Capitol at Lansing that were screaming to be let in. They wanted to confront the governor. There were militia members that wanted to kill her. They wanted to kidnap and kill her. And 2 of them have been prosecuted, thankfully. But she literally had her life threatened because of decisions that she was making. And Tudor Dixon thinks that this is, not a big deal. She didn't denounce any of it. At least I didn't see her denounce any of it. The thing is, though, is that Tudor Dixon did a whole lot of no real ideas. She didn't give any real ideas on what she would do different. She just basically talked about where Gretchen Whitmer failed, okay? Now, we can Monday morning quarterback all day long, okay? Were there some mistakes made? Yes, across the board, across every state across the country. There were mistakes made by governors. There were mistakes made by senators, Congress leaders, the president, for crying out loud. Mistakes have been made. People still refuse to get the vaccine because of misinformation. But yet they're still going to find a way to blame somebody else for that. I mean, they blame Dr. Fauci for that, for misinformation, when the person you should be blaming are people like Donald Trump and Judy Mikovits, or JFK Jr., or no, not yet, Robert Kennedy Jr., those are the people you should be blaming because they are continuing to spread misinformation on that. But I'm not going to keep talking about the COVID bit. So what did I think about the whole debate in general? Who do I think won the debate? Honestly, it's easy. Governor Whitmer won that debate cleanly, 100%. While Tudor Dixon spent her entire time just attacking Governor Whitmer with no real policies or decisions of her own, Gretchen Whitmer talked about all the accomplishments that she has shown that she has bipartisan support, and she does. There are Republicans in this state that support Gretchen Whitmer and say, we're going to support her again. And for those that are wondering, it's like, okay, well, why haven't the roads on I-94 been completely built and have not been, completely redone? This is something that takes time. I mean, I drive on these roads all the damn time, and I can tell you, I see the progress. I have seen the progress on 94, on we're not too far away where I live on 46. There's roads that have been redone there. The progress is there. They are rebuilding the damn roads. It just takes a great deal of time to get this stuff done because these are issues that have been going on for years, well before she came into office. But yet people are impatient. There are Republicans out there that are screaming about how the infrastructure bill that was given bipartisan support that was passed under this administration isn't working fast enough. Well, damn it, where was the bipartisan infrastructure bill under Trump? Oh, that's right, he canceled it. Why? Because of the Russian collusion investigation that he was being looked at for. That's why he canceled it. These are issues that take time to be done. I'm not going to expect Tudor Dixon to get any of it done. She's not focused on the infrastructure. She's not focusing on making things better for people of Michigan. She's focused on one thing, her own personal agenda. Basically making it to where a 14-year-old rape victim that is impregnated by her uncle is going to be forced to give birth to that man's baby. She needs to look on the positive side of things. She needs to look at it as some kind of miracle of some sort, which it isn't. It's horrible. It's disgusting. Do not vote for Tudor Dixon. I can't stress it enough. Do not vote for anybody that's been endorsed by Donald Trump. The reason I say this is because these people are mental. It's absurd how people can even consider this. So Gretchen Whitmer won the debate. I'm not just saying that because I'm voting for Gretchen Whitmer, that woman from Michigan, but it's because she has a proven track record of success. Is she perfect? No. But she's doing her damn best. She's doing her level best to make things better in Michigan. These are all facts here. They are undisputable. They're irrefutable. Get out there and vote. If you don't know how to get out there and vote, Google it. Google is a part of your internet plan. Google it. Find out where you find out if you're registered to vote in your state. And then if you're not registered to vote, in the state of Michigan, you have all the way up until Election Day to register to vote. And then cast your ballots on the same day. It's important for people to understand. It's so important. This is the time for you to really get out there and put the pedal to the metal and to really vote. Because this could very well determine who has control of the House, who has control of the Senate, whether the committee is actually going to hear Donald Trump, if he's actually going to answer to his subpoena, to make sure that, issues like LGBTQ plus rights are codified, make sure Roe v. Wade is codified, to make sure that other issues are codified across that guarantee basic human rights across the board. The Democrats are working their best to make sure this happens, and I support that. The GOP, on the other hand, wants you to take it about 50 years back, where they claim America was greater when it wasn't, when certain people did not have the rights to vote in this country. It's so simple. I can't spell it out for you any clearer than that. Anyway, I want to take the time to thank everybody that decided to listen in tonight, and I want to thank everybody that's going to be listening on the replay. Also, be sure, once again, to hit like, share, subscribe, do whatever you got to do, but please share this podcast out there. Be sure to share and show some love to me whatsoever. And I hope everybody has a great, safe weekend, and remember, stay hydrated, and cheers to you. Y'all have a great night. This has been a podcast brought to you by the Alex Kirsch Project. Thank you and have a good evening.